and working with individuals within families. And actually, when I work with an individual, I work with them in the way that there's a whole bunch of people in the room, their family, my family, because we're all here in the room or online. And that's taking a family systems approach to helping coaching people and helping people to grow, to understand that we're not just this individual all stuck out there all alone. No, we're a combination of our family of origins, intergenerational things that have gone on in the past in our families. So it didn't start with me. It doesn't start with me. It starts long ago. And if we can take that perspective, we can get, I think it's easier to get unstuck and easier to get more healthy, easier to recover, easier to grow up if we take that perspective. So that's why I like the Bowen family systems perspective, or Edwin Friedman, who is also Bowen, his perspective, because it really has provided people some freedom. On this topic, I really wanted to address this because it is probably more common than we realize. Many times people don't think about their families attacking, but I work with a lot of people in whose families are in attacking mode, even if it's simply a mode in which the family doesn't want you to grow up. You're still my child. I can ask you anything. I just had a client not long ago. His mother was asking, well, by the way, he's a well-known professional in his field of medicine, and his mother's asking him, well, when you bought this new car, did you get it on loan or did you pay cash for it? And he didn't want to tell her because he knew that information would go back to her and his dad, and they just talk about that and how inadequate he is or whatever, or that how can he be making that much money or not that much money, or it just becomes fuel for the family gossip. And it's not really about him or caring about him. It's about, let me gather more information. Well, if you have that's another way a family can kind of attack. Let me get information from you. Let me get information from you. Now, it's not a severe attack as someone disinheriting you. Right. I understand that, but it still is a form of, we're not just being. There are games afoot. And when those family games start, it can feel very attacking. Families can attack emotionally, financially. I've heard all of these stories. Psychologically, they can be traumatizing, even spiritually or religiously. And I think since I have been a pastor in the past, I realize families will get even attacking where, if you're making that choice, then you're probably just going to go to hell. Well, isn't that an attack? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's an attack religiously. I mean, you can say, I disagree with you, or this is what I believe about hell or heaven or whatever, if we're going to talk about the religious area. But for me to say, well, this is, if you marry that person, then they'll never be a part of our family. Well, that's an attack too. Wait a minute, what, can't I decide who I marry? Isn't that something I get to choose? And many families, no, it isn't. It's a choice we all need to make, and you need to make it with us. And I'll talk about that with us here in a minute. So manipulating, rejecting, isolating, terrorizing even at times, making threats, ignoring, corrupting. And I've had some people, even parents, getting their kids involved in criminal activity, hitting, spiritual abuse, as I mentioned, financial maltreatment, lawsuits, etc. Scapegoating. Isn't scapegoating a family attacking if you're the scapegoat? Controlling, bullying, lying, withholding children or grandchildren, and many other ways as well. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the ways in which families can attack.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you for going over all those and, kind of maybe getting people to think about things they're aware of in their own families and how this has occurred for them. So let's talk about why. why is it that families attack?
And that's always a very good question. And of course, if we've grown up in a dysfunctional family, many times, guess who we blame if the family attacks? Me. What am I doing wrong? Why am I not being accepted? Why are they being critical of me? Why are they mistreating me in these ways? I must be defective. I must be bad. I must be worthless. I must be. So we tend to many times blame ourselves. And that's unfortunate. When actually the reasons often that families will attack to expel pain and anger they cannot handle in the system. It's not really about you. Now, forgive me, I know it affects you. I understand that. It definitely affects you, but it's not really about you. In a systems approach, and when you think of systems, it's the system cannot handle this anger and pain, and so it must go somewhere. And it goes to who gets attacked. Mm-hmm. And so then we all, as the family, if we're all doing this together or parts of the family, we all unite and feel better when we attack you. Because then I don't have to look at me. I don't have to look at my pain, anger, hurt, whatever I'm not willing to look at. And it goes to you. And so it's thank you very much for being the scapegoat and the recipient of the attack. Now I can go sleep at night.
Right.
So families attack to, number one, expel anger and pain that they can't handle in the system and in themselves. A second reason is families attack to maintain the family's super self. That's this one big self that is the family that you're a part of. And you need to stay a part of this big glob called the super self. Or in my family, my name is Wise. My mother's maiden name was Wardwell. So the Wise Wardwell super self is what I grew up in. And to maintain that super self, we all partake of that growing up. And as we become more adult, we want to be less a part of that super self and more a part of our real selves, myself, not a part of just this super self. And so sometimes I'll say, oh, well, that's a Wise Wardwell rule that I'm living by right now. And that they project the messages in which we need to say, not I am me, but it is I am us and I am we. And again, they will attack because it threatens that super self that's so comfortable, even if it's dysfunctional. It still has a certain equilibrium. It still has a certain stability, though maybe negatively, but it's still stable in a way. And families will attack to use power to deal with their weaknesses and failings and psychological and emotional issues. And if you are one to wander away from that super self or start to develop your own self, then the attack can begin. We've got to get you back in the fold. And it almost has that cult-like flavor. And some families are cults. I mean, they really are. And you better toe the line, keep the secrets, don't trust anybody outside the family, don't tell anybody outside the family what you know and what and secrets that we have. You know, that all should stay. Or there was a woman who said to me recently, oh yeah, don't air our dirty laundry out there. Air our dirty laundry. That's the message, that you keep quiet and keep the dirty laundry in here. Because and if you do differently, if you change that, now we're going to have to attack.
Yes, just let it fester inside.
Let it fester inside. We'll just keep it under the wraps of denial. We'll just act like it doesn't happen. Even if it's hurting somebody, we're just going to act like it's not happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Any more on that before I ask you my next
Well,
question?
the last thing would be families attack as a continuous extension of previous generational trauma. So families can attack because of trauma that has been in the family and it gets passed down and then attack. Generally, what I found is if there's an attacking family, there was an attacking family before that, and before that, and before that. I mean, it often doesn't just pop up in this generation. There's usually been some abuse or attack or in previous generations, which can be traumatizing. And then out of that trauma, we just keep on doing it.
Right.
And it continues on.
So here's a question I'm curious about, right? And people probably have different degrees of relationships with their families of origin, right? Some people are really thick in their families and they're in touch and they're together and all those kinds of things. So for people who like continue to feel, right, very connected to a family, even though it's an attacking family, like, why do we continue to feel that connection? And why can't we just walk away and live our own life?
Excellent question. And many times people will ask that question of themselves. Why do I stay connected? And because they're saying, first of all, many people are in denial and don't even accept or realize their families are attacking. That's number one. So they just stay connected. This is just the way it's always been. Hey, this is just my family. You just love them, even though they're taking all of your money, criticizing you every time you're together, putting you down, shaming you. Well, this is just my family. And aren't we supposed to just accept our families the way our? Well, yeah, we are to accept other people. I understand that. But attacking is a whole different matter. And so they will believe this is just they'll be in denial, so they don't walk away. They also fear what will happen if I do. And if I do walk away, I'll be all alone. I won't have any support of any kind. So I'll take this 95% attacking and negative toxicity to get 5% of if I ever need to borrow some money or something.
Right.
Because they'll be there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, it comes at a big price.
Yeah,
that $500 loan is.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned money, because that is that holds such power over family relationships. Money is a big thing. That
major power.
Yep.
And who's going to help me when I have this baby? And who's going to, the normal things that family and good families might do. And we think we will lose all of that. Where will I go for Christmas? Where will I go for Thanksgiving or for, whatever holidays there are? Mm-hmm. And so we fear that loss and we have that grief and we don't want to have those losses. So I'll stay connected in spite of all the attacking. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, then you have the whole biblical, honor your father and your mother, which means you should never go no contact or never leave your family. Well, there's also some other verses too that say, leave your father and your mother to follow me. So which biblical verse you're going to go by here? Because it's more complicated than that. Yeah. And people will just take a simple look theologically at that. But they'll feel, I got to honor my father and mother. So that means I got to take whatever they dish out. Right. And so they won't leave for that reasons, the fear of loss. And also you've got societal norms too. Oh, you don't see your family anymore? Oh, what's wrong with you? They don't say, oh, your family must be toxic. They go, well, I wonder are you crazy? Is there something wrong with you? Well, I don't want people questioning me about that. Mm-hmm. Aren't you going to go be with your family this Thanksgiving? Well, no, we don't have a very positive relationship. And there are ways you can answer appropriately. But then they're going to, oh, something's wrong with this family and with this person. Right. So you have societal judgment that you'll want to stay in and stay connected. And then you also have the fantasies. one day my family will be the family I've always wanted. If I just wait long enough, if I'm a better person, if I go to all the family gatherings, if I try to assuage my mother, assuage my father, then they'll love me and we'll all be one big happy family.
Right.
And it's the fantasy
Right.
that well, I'm sure they love me, so I just need to do things differently, and then it'll come through. And so we'll have the fantasies that will keep us connected to that too.
Yeah.
So those are some of the reasons why it's hard to walk away. And I have a lot of people say, oh, well, just tell them to walk away. And I'm going, wait, you don't understand how difficult that is to do. That's not easy to do. Well, I just walk away. Well, you just walk away because it's not your family.
Exactly.
You're more objective. Let's talk about you just walking away from your family. See how you feel about that.
Right.
It brings up a lot of issues. So there's a lot of self-differentiation and self-growth that's needed for us to be able to have those boundaries and go either low contact or no contact, or it takes some maturing and learning to do that. And that's what I help people to do.
Yeah. So let's dive into that, right? You mentioned self-differentiation. And so if someone is in an experience where they're in a family that attacks, like what steps can people take if they're in that scenario?
And I think one of the steps is that first we have to come out of denial. Being attacked by the family, and many times I will tell people, well, and it's amazing how many times I've asked people, because they're telling me all these horrible stories, and I could give lots of examples of bad stories, and I'll say, well, in this one instance, I think, do you think your dad loves you? They had never thought about that. Well, I assumed he did, but everything they're telling me indicates he doesn't. It's like, and I'm the objective party. I know that too. I'm outside the family, so I can see maybe a little more clearly. And I'll say, well, do you think he really loves you? Or is this just a game or a power play with the inheritance and with, your job and the family business, or, those kind of things. And so this person starts to come out of denial. Oh, well, this really is wrong. People who love each other don't do this. Correct. I'm not saying you have to do anything right now. Let's just accept that people who love each other don't do this. And it's not just simply them being annoying, or just accepting. They start to begin to not accept the attacking anymore. And they're not just annoying. And I hear all the statements, well, that's just the way my family is. Yeah, but I don't think you really accept your family as they really are. You are minimizing what your family's doing. That's different than accepting this is the way they are. You're minimizing it, and we don't want to minimize. Now you can make choices after that. So that's kind of step one, come out of denial.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I love that about, right, people who love each other don't do this. That's such a profound thing, because
right. We don't think about that. We just assume everybody in the family loves everybody.
Right.
They're just difficult to get along with. They're just kind of selfish at times. And I'm going, but let's take a look at all you've shared with me.
Exactly.
That isn't how I define love.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, many times we have to look at how we're emotionally or financially dependent on the family and deal with those things too, because maybe the family has worked it around where we are more financially or emotionally dependent on them. So we want to understand our functioning and work on completing our unfinished business and issues which are at work inside us that keep us connected, over-connected. And so we have to deal with those issues, our fantasies, what we hope for. Well, they'll come around. Everybody needs your mother's love when you're 50. I mean, I'm not saying your mother can't love you. It's nice to have your mother love you. I'm for that. I really am. But you're telling me it's a need. And I'm going, you're 50 years old. I don't know that you need a parental love right now. I it'd be nice if they would. And some mothers and fathers love their kids, even into adulthood, which is fabulous, but not all.
Right.
And then I talk about once you become more aware of what's going on and you begin to become a little more intolerant to the abuse or toxicity or pain and the attacking, that, hey, I need to set some boundaries. Families who can tolerate this, and families are all on the continuum, so they're all kinds of families who can handle things down here, and some are way up here and can't handle anything. So I realize all families are different. Families who could handle it, I like for someone to begin to state their new awareness or their pain. Hey, I've been unhappy with being criticized so often. I'm unhappy with that. And I just want to let you know. Dad, when you give me a compliment, you always give me a backhanded insult. And I just heard a story recently where, someone had just purchased a car, and it was a nice car, which he could afford. No problem. It's definitely a nice car. Meets with mom. Mom says, "Oh, your car is so glamorous, but you're not. And you're kind of normal and kind of not so glamorous." Well, is that a compliment or a put down? Both.
Okay.
It's both. And so then when you say, well, that was rather hurtful or rude, all I was doing was complimenting your car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what about the other part where I'm just normal and not very glamorous, and I'm 39 years old. Why am I all of a sudden unglamorous? And why does it matter? And why would you say that when you're trying to make a compliment? You don't do it. That's like saying, Jerry, you are really a handsome guy. But you are fat. Well, which is it? What's the point of this? And so getting those double messages is always very difficult. So stating I'm unhappy with what I'm unhappy with. I'm unhappy with how you criticize me so often. I don't like the questions about my personal life. I'll share with you things about me on my timetable. When I come over, I don't want to hear about XXX. I have been unhappy about this for a long time. I don't want to hear about my sister, my looks, my career, my relationships, etc. I just don't want to do that. So I'm giving you notice. I'm putting you on notice. I don't like this. Now, some families won't accept that. You might as well not even do it, because they're only going to use that to attack you more. Well, you don't need attacked more. So we then just need to behave, not give notice. We just need to make choices and not give notice. I don't always have to give notice. I give notice to people that I think might be somewhat changeable or malleable. But if they're rigid, narcissistic, then you can give all the notice in the world and it's not going to make a difference. You just begin to see them less, say my preference, I don't want to come, those kind of, to these family gatherings or whatever. We need to pay attention to our personal true feelings, to learn about systems feelings. And I have a video on those feelings. We want to learn about our own feelings, because often when families attack, there's a lot of suppression of our feelings. Because like me going, well, man, that would really hurt. Does it hurt you? Oh, well, let me think about that. Yeah, I think it does.
Mm-hmm.
But they hadn't thought that was hurtful.
Right.
Because this is just the way things are. So there's no sense feeling hurt. And so they're not aware of their true feelings. Take your power back. Saying no, setting boundaries, enforcing boundaries, exploring no contact if necessary. You can even learn to say, please stop. You must stop. Stop or I will leave. I mean, we can learn to ratchet the resistance up in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to become a mirror, not a sponge. I can mirror back what they're saying. You have been criticizing me a lot every time I'm with you. A sponge is when they criticize me, I just take it all in.
Right.
So I want to be a mirror, not a sponge.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some steps that
Yeah.
I work with people on attacking families.
Yeah, I especially love that you brought awareness to, right? Some families you can say certain things to and set, right, these boundaries. And then some families you can't, but you need to, right, take different behaviors or do what you need to do to keep yourself safe and happy, and just recognizing that not all families are going to accept that. So,
and do it without explanation.
gotcha.
Because I had one client, she'd say, well, I want you to come to my birthday party. This is a mom, and dad's going to be there. And they're very critical, very just not, I don't know who they love or what they love. And the son said, it's a 2-hour drive. I just prefer not to. And then they go, well, why? What? I want to know your reasons. And why do people ask why? When I say, well, my preference is I just think I'll stay here and I won't come for the birthday lunch. Why do people say why? If they happen to be attacking families, they need more information. They want to change your mind. They want to hear your reasons so they can even discount those and criticize those. So I'm not going to give them that supply. I'm not going to give them, because that's my preference. I just choose to not come. Well, why are you not communicating with me? I'm communicating very well. I'm telling you, I choose not to come. What more? Well, you're not telling me all your reasons. I'm not 6 years old. I don't have to tell you all my reasons. Maybe I have, athlete's foot and I don't want to walk that far.
Right.
I don't have to tell you why. I really don't. We never have to answer any questions if we don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not a rule.
Yeah.
Unless the judge asks me. If a judge asks me, I got to answer.
Right.
If a policeman asks me, I got to answer.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I don't have to answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Mm.
And I'm not being mean or difficult.
Right. Yeah.
So
interesting. Yeah. It's interesting to start questioning, right? What kind of things we think are true, but aren't, right? That I must answer all these questions, or I must answer if someone asks me, or I'm obligated to always be connected to my family because I was born into it, right? Is it true?
I have their last name.
Right. Yeah.
But they may not be a nice family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're right. I'm not obligated to answer those things. And you may get even more bullying or more defining. And I have a video on stop letting others define you. And they will define you by saying, oh, well, you're just being oversensitive. Oh, well, you're just being this. Or they're just defining you, which is also an attack.
Mm-hmm.
That's also an attack if you're defining me and judging me.
Right.
I prefer to not come. We are adults and I can prefer that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For any reason I want, because I like chocolate ice cream over vanilla.
Right.
I just choose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm your mother. I'm fully aware that you're my mother. I'm fully aware you're my father. That has not been lost on me.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in fact, there are times I'm not sure I wish that were the case.
Yes.
But that's a little reactive and a little immature.
Yeah.
But I can be immature too at times.
Can't we all?
We all can be. We all can be. I'm trying to be more mature. It doesn't mean I will eliminate all immaturity. I'm trying to be more mature.
Right. Absolutely.
Work in progress.
I love it.
Work in progress.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing those steps, Jerry. And I'd love it, since we're running low on time, for you to share a little bit about your free gift. And then I'll ask you for some final insights. So what is that?
If you contact me on my website, send me a message, say you're coming from Avea, so that I have that, know that, and just say Avea, and that will tell me. I will send you a link to a free workshop and an additional video as well that you can have. That's kind of an exclusive video. The link I think we'll have on there that you can use that link to contact me. You can also go online if you find me or whatever and just write to me and say Avea. So we know it's but that contact link would get it there, and I can get you that free information. If people have really appreciated that too.
Awesome.
In past.
Thank you, Jerry. And everyone watching, the button to that is below that links over to Jerry's contact form. And then you put that information in. We'll have some instructions there so you can just copy and paste it so Jerry knows where you're coming from. And do you want to share any last insights? I think you had a quote that you wanted to share.
There were a couple I thought, they're very brief. When families attack, this is not us cutting off from them. This is them leaving us. Because so many feel guilty about leaving their family or distancing from their family. When I'm distancing from someone, it's not because it's my choice. I mean, it is my choice, but it's because of things that have been happening with the other person or the family. That's why I feel the necessity to do that. And then lastly, you can live without your family. It's hard to live without peace of mind.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Andy.
Thank you. I really appreciate you doing this again, Jerry, and such a great topic. So thanks for talking with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a joy.
As always. And thank you, Avaya students watching or listening right now, for showing up for yourself and being willing to go on this journey and talk about these topics. And we will see you all again very soon. Take care. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this latest class with Jerry Wise. He talked with us today about when families attack. I really enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed that he specifically honed in on family dynamics, right? What's happening with your family members, those that you were raised by, people you are genetically related to, all of those kinds of relationships. And one thing that I wanted to touch on was what we were talking about around obligation. Right. It's interesting that I think so many of us, and it's a very societal thing that, okay, so we were born into a family. So I tell myself I'm obligated to go to that dinner, or I'm obligated to do this thing, or I'm obligated to what have you, financially support someone, and on and on and on. And just starting to question, well, is that actually true? And right, just questioning in any dynamic, any kind of relationship you're in, am I doing this thing out of obligation, or am I doing this thing out of inspiration? Like I really truly want to, or I feel inspired to, as opposed to I have to because I'm related to you, or I have to because of some other obligation. So just things to think about in all of your relationships. Are you operating from a place of obligation or a place of inspiration? So little food for thought. And I hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you all again very soon. Take care.
Hi, my name is Jerry Wise. Codependency. If everyone else is okay, I'm okay. I consider that the codependence model or the codependence motto for life. And I think it's common for those of us who have experienced codependency in our lives and are dealing with the pain of codependency, which is a part of this video as well. I want to talk about the pain of codependency and how we are very focused on making sure everyone else around us is happy, and that our own happiness and our own sense of self is usually very low on our priority list. So what is codependency? We tend to be, as a result, lack a sense of self. We tend to be over responsible because we make up for other people's deficits. We tend to be very caretaking in our behaviors and in our relationships. We value ourselves on a low scale. We value others to a pretty high scale or high degree. We tend to be overly nice, which can flip into being overly angry or reactive, and then going back to overly nice. The way in which we experience our own self, we lack a self-definition and self-differentiation. when we navigate our emotional systems and our relationships, and not having that self, which is a good compass or a good rudder on our ship, since that ship is not ruddered by ourselves or sense of self, it tends to be navigated and ran by everyone else, and what everyone else thinks and everyone else wants, and what everyone else thinks is good for us. And in doing that, we find ourselves often shipwrecked, and it creates a lot of pain for us as a result of that shipwreck, because we're not the one captaining that ship. Everyone else is. And we're hoping that if we let everyone else be in at the helm of our ship, that they will like us, love us, take care of us, and in those ways we then find what I consider happiness. It's a codependent happiness, but it's not the deep sense of healthy, mature satisfaction and happiness. It's more superficial and more fleeting. A lot of codependents, particularly before they get into recovery, experience a lot of pain with their codependency. The bad thing about pain is that pain hurts. The good thing about pain is that it can motivate us to change and help us to gain insight in what we need to change. Pain can be an indicator for us to show us where we need to fix things. And for codependents, once that pain reaches an extreme or a critical mass, or we flip over the line of pain in our lives where it becomes virtually intolerable, then we get help, and then we go try to find out what do we need to do to change our lives. Unfortunately, that can be a wait of many years, and we find ourselves in a marriage of, say, 20 years, and we've got kids in our lives, and we find, gosh, I'm just not happy. All I've done is take care of everybody else. All I've done is work for everybody else, try to make sure everybody else is taken care of and happy, and I find I'm not very happy. And now I've lived this life, and I'm just not very happy at this point. And then things begin to break down. So what are some of those things that I would call the pain of codependency? If we live our lives the way I described at the beginning of the video, we then have, as a result, exhaustion, in which we just get tired because all we're doing is just over and over again. We're worrying about focusing on other people, their needs. Are they happy? Are they staying out of trouble? Are they progressing in their lives? Our focus is on others, and very little to any focus on ourselves. I want to talk about and mention, when I talk about a sense of self, often that comes up in conflict with a lot of religious or theological teachings, because a lot of us have grown up in churches, synagogues, temples, religious houses in which we have been taught that self should be looked on not only with maybe suspicion, but even as anti-God or anti-spirituality, that a sense of self-denial is what is valued, that we should not be selfish. And I believe those religious tenets are not bad tenets. They're not bad teachings. It's just that if you've grown up as a codependent, then we can read Scripture and read Bible and read spirituality in a way that's not very healthy. In other words, we'll leave out the passages like in the Bible which are know thyself and those kinds of things in which we really do need to have a sense of self so that we can be the spiritual person we need and want to be. We tend to deny the sense of self, and I think that really creates a lot of difficulties and problems for a lot of religious people. And so when I talk about self, I'm talking about a healthy self, not a selfish self, but a healthy self. Because out of a healthy self, we then can give to others and love others in a healthy and mature way. Codependents also experience the pain of guilt. There's a great book called When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. That was a book I read many, many years ago, but it was a very eye-opening and helpful book, that someone can actually say no and not feel guilty. My life was racked with guilt as a codependent, and I think for most codependents, guilt is something that keeps the codependency in place. You can't find and have a sense of self because who's going to get hurt around you? How are you going to make somebody unhappy around you? Your family of origin, your parents, your husband, your wife, your children, your pastor, your other friends, your co-workers. You will feel guilty for finding and owning a sense of self and your own choices and what's healthy for you. That is opposed to having a healthy life, and that you should feel guilty about that. That's a common theme for codependents. Codependents also experience and feel the sense of worry and fear. There's often worry and fear that's going on a very regular basis. Certainly enmeshment is a part of the pain of codependency. We are often enmeshed with friends, co-workers, spouses, children, and that enmeshment is, while on the one hand produces kind of a nice, cozy, oceanic feel where we feel, quote, connected in some way, but enmeshment always comes at a loss of self. We don't enmesh without losing a sense of ourselves. And losing or giving up that sense of self really is painful. Codependents also tend to feel a lot of neediness. They are needy. And with that neediness, we never have our needs met. We never feel filled up inside. And out of that neediness, we're always looking for more because our cup is never full. And as a result of that cup never being full, we're always looking to try to fill that cup. And we try to fill that cup with others, from others, by doing for others, and that creates a real problem and pain. We have, I think, as codependents, a pain of having a susceptibility to problems within a system. For example, I know people whom say, let's take a church. I know from my own background, and one person is unhappy in the church, and that creates anxiety throughout the whole church. And we as codependents are susceptible to that anxiety, that system anxiety. But the same can be true at work. Somebody becomes unhappy at work, and now all the codependents are all pinged. The system has pinged them about that anxiety, and they don't feel a sense of calm or non-anxious presence. They're now anxious because somebody's unhappy. Same in family of origin. So having that susceptibility that's always there really creates some difficulties and pain. The codependent feels a low sense of self-worth and a low self-image. Maybe they don't really feel they deserve to be who they are, and that others wouldn't love them if they really knew who they were. And so we're always playing the image game and making sure everybody is happy with our image. Are they happy with us? Not just being who we are. And that creates a lot of pain because we don't feel good about who we are. And we weren't taught that we should feel good about who we are. Codependents experience pain by experiencing the emotional noise of our unresolved past. There's always that noise emotionally going on in us because of unresolved problems from family of origin, from growing up, and those struggles still exist. Often codependents feel a lot of shame. Not only do they do things in which they feel guilty, shame is about who you are, not what you've done. And so there's a feeling of shame that I'm not right. There's something wrong with me. And we feel shame. Then the fear of abandonment. And feelings of abandonment is also a part of codependent pain. We feel like and worry about people are always going to leave us. People are always going to be unhappy with us. We don't deserve that people would just love us for who we are. So we always have to be doing things to feel loved. These are some of the pains of codependency, and if you experience these, I hope that you will find help and get help for yourself, because codependency is something you can recover from. Having worked with thousands of codependents over the years, literally thousands, it is very gratifying to see them after a time of therapy begin to have that burden of codependency lifted from them, when they begin to feel good about themselves, maybe for the first time, and feel like they deserve to be who they are, and they can love themselves in a healthy way. I find them finding balance in their lives, in relationships, in work, and in other ways. Actually, codependents are very strong. They're very strong people because they're very good at caretaking, which also means they can take care of themselves once they redirect that in a healthy way. Codependents have lots of strengths in that they are very empathetic, for example. They can empathize and often have over-sympathized with other people. And out of that empathy, they can find empathy for themselves and empathy for others in a very balanced way. I also find codependents really are very insightful people. They just haven't known what normal is. And I might recommend for those who are codependents the book What's Normal by John Friel and his wife. An excellent book on what's normal. Also, you need to hook up with a therapist. You need to find someone to help you with your reality checking and also healing the wounds of the past. If you live in the Indianapolis area, I hope you'll make an appointment, call me, and come and see me. If you don't, and no matter where you live and you have the internet, Skype and FaceTime counseling is available for you. Give me a call, and you'll see on the screen my phone number, my email address. I hope you'll send me your email address. I'll be happy to send you new videos and new information about recovery and healing. I hope this video has been a help to you. I hope you'll join the conversation. Hope you'll like the videos and make comments. I appreciate you watching the video today, and have a great day. Hello, my name is Jerry Wise, and I'm the director and founder of Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. And this video is entitled, Getting Your Childhood Out of You. I've been working with folks for close to 40 years now and trying to help them to heal from their past and to get what's in them out of them. I'm a relationship and life coach, coaching people in self-differentiation based on a family systems approach, a Murray Bowen family systems approach. And today I'd like to share with you an accounting of someone who shared their story with me, and they gave me permission to share it, though it is anonymous. Names are changed and situations are changed just a little bit, so that we wouldn't identify her, though I don't know that she would really even matter or she would even care all that much, but I care. It's a story she's blessed me with being able to share with you. I had done a video on healing the pain of growing up in which I shared a story about Amelia, and she shared her story of pain growing up, which triggered this person who wanted to share with me her story. And it, of course, is a very painful one. Let me grab my glasses real quick. sorry, the we're going to call her Joanne. Joanne grew up in a family that was alcoholic and had a narcissistic mother, which was very painful for her. This recounting is a recounting when she was 6 years old. And if you can imagine a 6-year-old going through this, how difficult that would have been and how painful, horribly painful it would be. The reason I want to share this is so that, number one, you don't feel alone, because many of us have experienced uncomfortable childhoods, difficult, painful, traumatic childhoods, and that you're not alone, and that there is help and healing for that if we choose recovery. And getting someone who can coach us towards self-differentiation, getting that out of us so that we can truly be an adult. She begins, after listening to the pain and loneliness that Amelia experienced growing up, a paralyzing fear of pain and loneliness began to well up from somewhere deep within me that I did not remember existed. I felt trapped in a place I had forgotten about. My mind turned to mush, and I was in a fog that I had not experienced for quite some time. Now that my mother had been gone for over a year, I had no idea this pain was still brewing deep within. I felt blindsided, and I experienced fear and loneliness again, like I had so long ago. I began to realize that the very last time I felt any kind of unconditional love and acceptance from a family member in my childhood home was when my sister Anne left for college. I'm the last of 5 children, and I was the unexpected child, which is nothing unusual, for there are many unexpected children. But for my mother, it was at the age of 42 that she had me. My mother had had 3 girls and then had a long anticipated boy that arrived. She was done, in her mind, having children. 6 years later, I was born. I have but one warm and tender memory of my mother soothing and holding me. She never kissed me unless I initiated it. The words "I love you" were very few and far between, and again I had to initiate it. The words, I have memories of my sister Anne when I was 6, when she left home. I remember being with her everywhere she went. I realize now it was because her countenance was warm and accepting. She was fun-loving and has a positive demeanor, even to this day. Anne was the closest thing to a mom in my early childhood home. We shared the same bedroom. We had twin beds, but often when I had a bad dream or I was just scared of the dark, I would slip into her bed and she never complained. She would help me feel that I was safe and okay in the dark. The dark was very, very scary for me. And when I needed to go downstairs to the bathroom, I would wake her and she would take me without complaint. I felt so safe and secure with her by my side. I felt loved and accepted in my needs and wants. She was the one I remember. I do not remember my mother or my brother, who was just 6 years older than me. Anne was my caregiver and my sibling who loved me. After she left home for college, my world would change in many ways that I never imagined possible. My security, my protection, my comfort drastically changed. I seemed to become invisible to everyone in my household. The only attention I seemed to attract was especially from my mother. And it was negative attention almost all the time. My brother hated me. I was an object to him, to do with me what he wanted in the moment. He would tell me over and over what a dumb, stupid person I was, and that nobody would ever like or want to know me. He would try to convince me that my brother-in-law did not like little girls who cried. I believed him. I was scared of my brother-in-law and tried very hard not to cry in front of anyone. I still have a hard time crying and showing my emotions even today. As we grew older, my brother was just always so angry. He would beat on me and treat me cruelly when my parents were out. I was scared of him and did not want to be left alone with him. My mother would not believe me when I would tell her what he would do when they were not around. She would say, "I don't see any bruises. You're just so dramatic. Why are you always causing trouble?" I remember still to this day the first few nights sleeping alone in my bedroom after Anne left home. My bedroom seemed so big now, and I was afraid. I needed to go downstairs to the bathroom. I turned on every light as I made my way down the stairs. I made it, but I just wanted someone to hold me and tell me it was going to be okay. I was sad my sister was gone. I was sad and lonely in this new environment without my sis. I was scared. I needed my mom. I knocked on my mom and dad's bedroom door. I remember feeling extremely anxious. I said, "Mommy, I am scared. Can I sleep in here?" My mother wakes up and looks at me in her stern and demeaning voice, and she says, "Scared? What do you mean you're scared? There's nothing to be scared about. You're not sleeping in here. Go to your room." I ran out of there as fast as I could, crying, frightened, and shutting all the lights off as I went. I jumped into Anne's bed and I cried and I cried and I cried. "Anne, I need you. I'm scared. Mommy hates me. Anne, please come back home. I need Mommy. I need you. I do not belong here in this house. I do not like it here. I feel so alone, so lost, so unworthy to be loved. There's something wrong with me. My mom and my brother seem to hate me. I'm always doing something wrong. No one protects me. My dad is numbed out, disconnected, and is not responsible or responsive. He cannot be the man of the household. His coping skills are lacking, and alcohol is a part of his coping. My parents just seem to vegetate in our home. There is no love, no connection, no happiness, no joy, no laughter, no snuggles, no kisses. It is either chaotic or it's stone cold quiet. Anne, you showed me love and acceptance, and when you left, all that ended in my 6-year-old world. Everything continued in a downward spiral. I did not know then what I know now. My mom and dad's marriage was in a downward spiral, and my dad's drinking began to be more and more out of control during my teenage years. This is when loneliness began to be my friend. It was not a welcome friend. I would watch other children and they would seem happy, unlike me. Their mothers would be so proud of them.
They would smile and hug and kiss them. I would think, they must be doing it right, unlike me. I have to figure this out. I have to change. I have to be good, perfectly good, loving and perfectly loving, and do everything my mom tells me in the most meticulous way. It was no use. It always failed. Loneliness was excruciating. I felt so alone and unworthy in this world. How could anyone love me? I began not to love me. I hated my very self. In my mom's eyes, nothing I did was good enough. If I did do something well, then she would bring it down by dumping all her pity and laying on the guilt trip of how she was never able to do such things. She never was allowed to go to college. She was never allowed to work outside the home. She would tell everyone how she had encouraged me to do more, resulting in all of my accomplishments, as a narcissistic mom would. She would not tell us how proud she was of us. That would produce a prideful attitude in us. It seemed to her that the feelings of worth were to be sacrificed. It was hopeless. It was useless. And I gave up. I gave up ever trying to be someone, to be me, to be Joanne. This is a painful story told from a 6-year-old's perspective of what was going on in her life. I know Joanne is not alone. There are many who have many, many stories like this. So what can Joanne do to get her childhood out of her, to resolve, to heal, to deal with these feelings that were so difficult for her growing up? Well, first of all, I think of going back in time, journaling, writing about events that happened, putting it down on paper, seeing it in black and white affirms truly what was going on at the time and how you felt. It makes it become more real rather than someone just saying, no, that never happened, or no, you're just exaggerating, no, that's not true. So go back in time and make a record of what had happened. Read it through. Another thing that we can do is begin to, if we aren't in touch with that, we can begin to, if we're not in touch with our feelings about this type of journaling, we can think about our own children, if we have children, and think about them being at 6 years old and they are experiencing this, or you're doing that to them. How would they feel? How would your little 6-year-old, that's your own child, feel about being treated this way? And that begins to give us some connection to the feelings as to how that might feel. We can also use this journaling to begin to expel it from ourselves. And with Joanne in particularly, she lives in a rural area and out on the farm, and so she can go out into the field where no one's listening, no one cares, nobody's going to hear her, and she reads this. And I would suggest reading it in another voice than your own normal adult voice. Read it in a different voice. Either a low, after listening to the pain and loneliness that Amelia experienced growing up, you can read it in a different voice.
Or you can read it, my brother hated me. I was an object to him to do with what he wanted in the moment. And we read it with such intensity and such emotional expression. And we do that, and do it a dozen times. Read it in that expressive, angry, or traumatized voice so that it can come out and so that it can be expressed. We also can take a look at this journaling and how do I play this out in my role as an adult? How am I living this way in my life now? The lonely, uncared about, unloved, worthless. How is that getting played out in my marriage, in my family? And identify that so that we can begin to change those behaviors in the here and now. I always advise clients to, when you are in living your life, that you would tend to feel less and observe more, or feel less and think more. Not because I wish to discount the feelings. The feelings are so intense, they're there, and that's why if we're reading it very intensely and owning and accepting those feelings. But then as we're living, we want to be careful not to get caught in those, what I call systems feelings. And then we end up reacting and being an adult out of those feelings. So we want to think more, observe more, and feel less, and absorb less from interacting with others. And also, we don't want to argue out of reactive or systems feelings. We don't want to argue out of this whole journaling that I've just read to you that's within us, and argue with our spouse, or argue with our parents, or argue with our siblings. And I would recommend the video on true feelings versus systems feelings, and that might help you also further. I have another video entitled that. Don't feel like you have to protect the integrity of others. Meaning, if someone was wrong, such as parents, and they were wrong, and it's not about blaming them, it's about fully accepting that they were wrong and this was wrong in what they did. I realized in Joanne's case, her mother and her parents had very bad childhoods. They were abused, they were mistreated. So I understand that it's a multi-generational problem that just keeps flowing down the generations. And so it's not about blaming them, it's about I don't have to protect their integrity when I'm doing this work. Certainly don't work it out with your perpetrator. Don't work it out with your mom and dad. Don't work it out with your sister and brother, because these are old archaeological feelings. We don't work those out now with them. We learn to be an adult with them. Because we don't need to work it out with them, we need to work it out within us. Oftentimes when we tried to work it out with them, we end up making things worse, or it becomes more intense, or they don't know what we're talking about, or they're still in denial, or all kinds of issues in that way. So we're looking for them to change or be sympathetic or empathetic, and probably they won't be empathetic or caring at that point, because they may feel their own shame, they may feel their own guilt. Now certainly, if they're coming to you and say, I'm so sorry for what I did, I'd like to talk with you about that, well then you're free to do that. But we don't use them as a way to get that out of us. We use them as a way to be an adult with them. How can I be an adult with these individuals? And again, we want to be our age. We want to act our age when we interact with these folks, our parents, our siblings. And we don't have to live in denial about it. We certainly say, no, that's not exactly the childhood I remember. That's not the way I felt it. Well, aren't you just blaming me? No, I'm just saying that's not the way I remember it. And no, I don't have to blame you. It's not the way it was for me. You can remember it any way you want to remember it. I remember it the way I remember it. So these are a few tips you can use. There are more. I wanted to share this experience with you today, and I wanted to share Joanne's experience of her 6-year-old little girl having a traumatic experience and how she can work on that as an adult. I want to share with you that if you need further help, or you'd like resources, or you'd like to contact me, use my email address. You can go to my website, www.jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com. You can sign up for our email address. You can go to the Facebook page of the same name. And I hope those resources will be a help to you. I really want to thank you today for listening, and have a great day. Hello everyone. I want to thank you for joining me today. This video is entitled Preparing to Go No Contact. My name is Jerry Wise, and my practice is entitled Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and on other social media. I'm a life and relationship coach. I have been in the helping professions for 40 plus years, and I wanted to do a series of videos, and I have 3 planned. This is the first of those 3. And the first video is preparing for no contact. Second video is going no contact. Third video is self-care for no contact. Why would I do 3 videos on no contact? I've done a lot of viewing through the social media and on YouTube, and I find a variety of advice and coaching that is offered to viewers. Some of it helpful, some of it practical, some of it right on the money, some of it marginal, some of it even dangerous and I think unhealthy. Some of it is unwise, and some of it is great. So there's a wide variety of information on that. And I thought I would prepare and share with you a video that involves the emotional dynamics of going no contact. You can probably find other videos that would tell you, okay, do this, do A, B, and C. If you go no contact with a family member or with family members, these are the tips you should do in accomplishing that. And so there's that information out there. What I find missing is a lack of information about the emotional system or the emotional dynamics of going no contact. And that seems to be an area that I have more of an interest in, and I thought I would share my thoughts and feelings about this with you. Going no contact is, and I'm going to define no contact here in a bit, cutting off contact with a toxic or narcissistic family member or families. And that's what I'm going to primarily focus on. You can go no contact with an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend who's narcissistic or toxic or borderline or sociopathic. There's lots of folks we probably should go no contact with, and that means having no contact with them at all. And then, in my opinion, also resolving the inner emotional dynamics of that. So with no contact, there's an outer recovery and an outer work and an inner work. The outer work, there tends to be more information on YouTube and online for that outer work. What do? If they call you, do this. If they write you this, do that. If they stop by, do that. That's the outer work of going no contact. Then I believe there's the inner work of going no contact, and that's working towards having neutrality and detachment and practicing non-attachment to the target of the no contact. And that's what I'd like to share a little more about in my videos. One notion is going no contact, many believe, is a simple act of cutting off from narcissistic family members or a friend or exes. You just simply stop talking to them and not seeing or talking to them anymore. But that's rather simplified, because that's like saying doing a heart transplant surgery and replacing a heart is like changing a tire. Well, there are some dynamics and some processes that are the same. You take something off and put something in, much like changing a tire. But one involves many more layers, much more knowledge, is more complicated, has lots of systems dynamics to it, i.e. the heart surgery versus the tire change. And so it's not quite so simple as that. And I thought it would be helpful to help people understand it on different levels and on a deeper level, and they might be able to accomplish more for themselves and in their own lives with going no contact with someone who is toxic, sociopathic, borderline, narcissistic, the cluster B folks. And so bottom line, going no contact is not flying a Cessna. It's like flying a Boeing 747. And I believe that's why it's so important to have a guide or an anchor or a coach to help you with that process. While many of us could fly a kite, that doesn't mean we can fly a 747. And we could probably use some help to do that. And if you think going no contact is just like flying a kite, emotionally I think it's more complicated than that. Just historically, I know, and I was a marriage and family therapist, social worker, pastoral counselor, addictions therapist, worked in a psychiatric practice. I've had lots of experience working and helping people. And for many years, I think going no contact was not mainstream. It just wasn't common. The family was considered sacrosanct or very sacred, and you wouldn't tell someone to not have contact with their family, no matter how toxic they were. And that's unfortunate, because again, I think we thought the family was inviolable or should be untouchable, because it's the family. And so that wasn't an option that was offered to a lot of people. And if you did take that option of going no contact with a family, there was a lot of cultural and social feedback and negative consequences and judgment and what's wrong with you, and that's your mother, don't you know? That's your father. What are you talking about? That's your sister. And there would be a lot of guilt and shame around doing that. So those who did it back then, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, in the 90s, even early 2000s, or that if you did that, you were kind of considered there was something wrong with you, not something wrong with your family. And so there's a lot of shame and guilt around that, and you wouldn't have a lot of support for doing that because so many people would not even consider that even as an option. They couldn't even conceive of someone not having contact with their family of origin because their family of origin was not well. They just couldn't even think of that. And if someone did do that, they would think there's something wrong with them. And that was not a good thing and not supportive for people who needed support. Also, there was a marriage and family theory and belief that it's important to grow up within your family, and in Bowen family systems, growing up within your family of origin is very important, and you use your family of origin to grow up. Well, that's all fine and good unless your family of origin or family members or exes or husbands or whatever are so toxic, abusive, dangerous, and harmful that you cannot use that option because there's so much damage that would occur as a result of it. The benefit you would get in self-differentiation and maturity would not outweigh the damage you would have from all the abuse. And so that's not a good option for many. As we know, there's different levels of contact with family members and with people who are toxic. Some people we have to deal with. Some people, I talked to I don't know how many grandparents who have children who are narcissists or very troubled or mood disordered or all kinds of difficulties, bipolar, and they have children, which would be the grandparents' grandchildren, and the grandchildren are used as pawns and all kinds of dynamics like that, and it's very painful. And so, when do you go no contact? If you cut off your child, then you cut off the grandchildren. And it becomes very painful, a decision in that. The collateral damage is awful. Sometimes the collateral damage is absolutely worth it, and you have to do it. Sometimes there might be some middle ground or middle way to work through that. So we have we have full contact with other people. We have low contact, and low contact with people is a very minimal contact with them, both maybe emotionally and externally or physically. Then we can kind of go gray rock, with some interactions in which we are emotionally neutral but have some physical contact with them. And then we go no contact, which is where we want no physical contact with them, no external contact with them, and we want to have no emotional contact with them either. We want to detach from them. We want to let them go. And that's the going no contact. And what I find, especially if you've listen to a lot of people on YouTube or different places, there's so much anger involved sometimes when they talk about going no contact, and they're very proud of going no contact, which I absolutely am glad they are out of that toxic environment. But they're left with the anger, the rage, the hurt, the depression, and they're not dealing with those things very well. They're just proud of their no contact, but have not resolve the anger that they felt about those things. And I think it's that dual healing that we need internally and externally. Because of that anger, you might ill-advise someone about what they should do. And that's true for any therapist, that's true for any coach. If you're not dealing with your own issues, you're going to project those onto your clients, your patients, the people you're helping, the viewers that you have on YouTube. There's going to be some ill advice because you're not centered and you're still stuck in those feelings. What is no contact? No contact is an adult intentional choice, and I do mean intentional, to fully withdraw from a relationship regardless of the desires of the other person. And that means withdraw from it emotionally and physically. No contact, we're not going to talk, we're not going to communicate, and I'm going to withdraw from it emotionally, and I'm going to work to do and live non-attachment. And use non-attachment as my process to in the relationship I have with you. I wish to break that relationship in which we don't have any. And that's often not done by just a day's decision, and then you just say, I'm not going to call him anymore. Okay, that's over. Relationships are more complicated than that. And that's why I say it's a recovery work versus simply a snap decision. No contact is a work of recovery. And so that's a part of how I view no contact. And I definitely recommend that you use a guide, professional, coach, or therapist to help you with the decision to go no contact. This video is about preparing for no contact. Use a guide, use an anchor, because I really think that's going to help you be more successful and heal much better. We don't want to go no contact out of reactivity or a lack of a sense of self, or just out of our inner child who's upset or reactive. This decision should be made by our inner adult along with a loved inner child. If we do it out of reactivity, then in many ways we are perpetuating the relationship we had with the no contact folks. For example, if a family is toxic to a child and scapegoating them, mistreating them, abusing them, and then out of the child's reactivity as an adult, we're an adult now, and we're tired and mad about it, well, I'm just going to shut you all down. I'm not going to do anything with you guys. The problem is now I'm kind of solidified or cemented in that scapegoating role. And I haven't broken out of that, out of my role and out of their dynamics. I'm fitting in to the family and using no contact to fit in as a scapegoat. So I don't want to fit into the family dynamics. What we want to do is do something different. And that's where it'd be A, we just keep doing what we've always done with the family. B, I'm going to be reactive and I'm going to say, I'm getting out of here. I'm tired of being a scapegoat. See ya. Now I'm a scapegoat who's gone no contact. Or C, I'm going to work through and identify and choose to go no contact as an adult, not out of reactivity and out of the family dynamics and out of the family processes. I don't want to function out of the family processes. Roles, emotional reactivity, I don't want to function out of that. Because if I do, there'll be a little longer lasting consequences. We must identify our boundary threshold so we can declare self and choose for self that this relationship will not be influenced to the better no matter what I do, that this relationship is toxic, abusive, or dangerous, and that they have no capacity or willingness to change or negotiate a better relationship, and that boundary setting has failed. That can be abusive partners, narcissistic parents or partners, narcissistic or borderline family members, sociopathics, even alcoholic drug addicts, partners or family members. Leaving a family or a narcissistic family members and going no contact is like breaking a heroin habit. It is also likened to divorce from a very long marriage. And you don't just heal from that just by signing the divorce papers. There are many levels of healing that go along with that. And we are very imprinted, often enmeshed, often emotionally dependent, often driven by the family dynamics, often a part of the family super self that we become a part of, that just saying, okay, I'm going no contact, doesn't resolve all that. And so we want to look at all that so that we can begin to really get free and really have liberation and really have joy and really have our own selves and not just be a part of a mirror reflection of the family, only an opposite reflection rather than their reflection. So we need to begin to prepare for, we're going to feel some discomfort, we're going to feel some anxiety, feelings of rejection or abandonment, grief, regret, aloneness, guilt, and other feelings. There's going to be cultural guilt and shame Because if you talk to other people, they're going to go, what did you do? Wait, you don't have any contact with your family, or you don't have any contact with your parents? Well, what's, again, that notion of parents and family are sacrosanct. They are sacred, and and honor your father and your mother. I'm going to be talking about that in a later video. What do we do with honoring our father and mother, for those of you who have a Christian and Jewish or Abrahamic faith? But culture will say, oh, there's something wrong with you if you're doing that, because they can't be that bad. And they did birth you, and your mother did take care of you, and your father did provide food in the house, and there'll be all that kind of cultural shame and guilt, societal disapproval, and fear, because they may be triggered in their feelings about their family because you're making a step of differentiation and wholeness, and that threatens them because they're going, man, you mean somebody can really do that? Gosh, my parents are horrible, and I don't want to have to deal with that. So they can be fearful if you raise that. And then there's also the religious tensions, like we mentioned, the honor your father and your mother, and you're supposed to treat them with total respect, love, dignity, and be a doormat for them no matter what they do. That's kind of because they have an honored position. Well, having been a pastor in the past and a bishop, I think I can talk to some of that, and I hope to do that in the future. So we want to, in preparing for going no contact, we want to be practicing non-attachment, which I'll be talking about. We want to also look at inner bonding. Again, a book by Margaret Paul, which I really like, called Inner Bonding, because we want to begin to bond with ourselves as we're detaching from the family. So you're attaching and detaching at the same time. And we will replace our family member, our partner, our boyfriend, girlfriend, siblings, whoever we have gone no contact. We will be replacing them with us, with ourselves, to begin with. And then we want to begin to replace and build a new family, new support, new people in our lives. Well, what are some of the signs that, in preparing for going no contact, what are some of the signs that you might need to go no contact? I did share some of these I've added some that I'd like to share with you. I did share some of these with a live broadcast that I did a couple months ago. If you go to my YouTube channel, Jerry Wise Relationship Systems, you can find that live broadcast and also hear our whole discussion with viewers also about going no contact. So, one of the things I think of that this is a systems added sign that maybe you should go no contact. In family systems, when we try to make a change within a family, and I make a decision to do something different or play a different role, I'll get resistance from the family or resistance from others because they don't like that. They like the normal family dynamics. And so they'll say, well, Jerry, why are you doing this? I mean, are you sure? This doesn't seem quite right. And then if I continue to maintain that position, then they move to, you really should stop doing that. We don't like that at all. You need to stop being the way you're being. And then thirdly, the third stage of resistance is you better stop or else. And that's what families will do. But if we can go through all three stages, for most families, they will come around and accept a new you to a greater degree. If they stay in that third stage of resistance, which is you better stop this or else, and there are consequences and all kinds of bad things that happen, if they stay stuck in that stage, then that may be a reason to go no contact. That might be one of the signs to help you go no contact. Also, if your family abuses you physically, verbally, or sexually, is a reason to go no contact. Your family abandoned you forever, and now they want you back. There's financial abuse involved. I've been talking with clients recently, and I've got a number of people who are being financially abused by children, by parents, by siblings. And if you have financial abuse, then you may want to go no contact. They show no remorse when you tell them that they hurt you. They don't care, doesn't matter. You deserved it. Your family wrecked your marriage or relationship. Therapists, coaches, pastors, whoever have told you to go no contact, that might be a sign you might consider going no contact. Your family's love is really purely conditional. It's always conditional. We love you as long as you do this, and you are this, and you don't disagree, and you don't do what we don't want you to do, because if you do, we'll withdraw that love. Your family is in a religion that acts cult-like, and you want out. You may have to go no contact. You can't remember a discussion with your family that didn't result in your tears. You may want to consider no contact. You live in fear, not knowing how your family will behave from one day to the next. There's so much volatility in their lives. Multiple people have told you that they think your family is very toxic. Your relationship with your family is all about one person or every person but you. They did something unforgivable, killed your favorite pet, chose strangers over you, sabotaged a job opportunity, sabotaged a relationship opportunity. They regularly use no-win mind games to manipulate you and to control you. Because if there's a no-win mind game going on, you're not going to get anywhere, and you're not going to have a relationship. You're just going to have an existence. Your family put you in a horrible situation. They raised you in a drug den. They purposely gotten you fired just so that you wouldn't leave them. And again, those mind games can be gaslighting, emotional blackmail, guilt trips, lying, and those are some things you might want to consider. I added some other of my own. When self-differentiation, neutrality, and boundary setting has failed, then you might want to consider no contact. When family member or members have no insight and are in denial, complete denial, and are abusing you and misusing you. That can be in denial due to mental illness, denial and lack of insight due to alcoholism, and that their illness affects you in many negative ways. And that's after, let's say, for alcoholism, you've gone to Al-Anon, you've gotten support, but there is no sign the alcoholic is going to change or the drug addict is going to change. And it's hurting everyone. When any personal knowledge is used as currency in the family, no confidences are held, no discretion is used, and your personal information and facts about your life are weaponized. Your father asks you how much you're making at your new job. You tell him, and he says, well, I know how much you make. I know you can afford this for me. That's weaponizing and using your personal information for his own purposes. When if you told him how much you made, that was just something you would tell him and hope would be respected and not abused or manipulated. So what about preparing yourself? Well, remember, going no contact, we become the great truth tellers when we go no contact. We are breaking the family trance for us. And by us going no contact, we're saying something about the whole system. And that's why the system doesn't like that, because it's exposing the family in a way it doesn't want to be exposed. We declare we are no longer going to live the family's paradigm, perspective, subjectivity, awareness, way of looking at life. We're no longer going to do that. We're not going to live the narratives. We're not going to play the roles. We're not going to deal with the lies. We're not going to accept the gaslighting. And we're not going to accept the super self of the family that we're a part of, and that becomes ourselves. We're not going to do that. I want myself. I don't want to be family self, and I just do whatever the family wants me to do. Well, that you end up being a great truth teller. Well, that's not always welcomed in a dysfunctional family, as you can well imagine. No contact exposes the family dysfunction. And just think, let's take a simple example of like an alcoholic who has a wife, and that alcoholism, and he's a professional, but he's a functional alcoholic, goes to work, but he's still an alcoholic, has all the symptoms. And then the wife is going, I just cannot live this way. Well, as long as she stays with her husband and all keeps as a secret, then the secret and the dysfunction and the disease can be managed and maintained at the expense of the wife and the husband and family. If the wife decides to leave, that exposes the alcoholism, and now it's no longer a secret. And so that's why there can be a lot of anger or frustration with someone who leaves, because they're exposing what they want and what the addict, alcoholic, cluster B person wants to keep secret. Begin to view your spouse, partner, family members as people, acquaintances, neighbors, rather than emotionally endowed images. In other words, this is just Betty. This is not my mother. This is just Betty. And so we begin to put them into a realistic view as we think about them and going no contact. We take them off the pedestal or being deified or being that mommy and daddy versus, like in my family, Cedric and Joanne, And again, they are those socially accepted masters over you, which is what our culture believes in terms of parents. But again, some don't go no contact with parents. They'll go no contact with a couple of siblings, or maybe even one sibling. And I've had one client of many clients who have gone partial no contact, full no contact, and when he goes no contact with a really abusive family member, which is a mother, then then his dad, who is not married to the mother, is now protective of the mother, and so is his brother. And they're not even accepting the fact of how the mother treats the son and how awful he treats him. So again, he's exposing mom's narcissism, and the dad and the brother doesn't want that exposed. I would recommend that you get a guide, a therapist, a coach, or a pastor with some family systems knowledge. I think would be helpful. Find a support group, ACOA, ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. There are some adult children of narcissists. There are therapy groups. There's Al-Anon, adult children of dysfunctional family groups, 12-step groups for support. Prepare for the internal battle. And there may be some relapses, which is okay, but we're preparing for the internal battle. We're looking for progress, not perfection. And process through, do I need to grow up in this relationship and become more differentiated? Or is this relationship more toxic than the benefits I would get using them to grow myself up? I think that's a very good question, because I have a lot of people come to me and say, should I go no contact or not? I have some people, And I've been aware of some people who've needed to grow up within their family and could, but took the no contact approach. Then I have other people who are trying to grow up in their family, and their family is so toxic that it's so difficult to grow up, but they don't choose no contact. So I think it's good to have a guide to help you as to which way to go. Remember, going no contact is outside the norm for society and most cultures and most all families. There will be resistance. You may have the most resistance coming from yourself. And that's another thing to remember. The guilt, the shame, giving up dreams and fantasies about the family you always wanted, the anger, the sadness, the hurt. I'd like you to look for a couple more videos I'm going to be doing. One's going to be on going no contact. The second's going to be on self-care for no contact. I hope that you will reach out to me if you would like more help, or if you would like to work with me. My contact information is below. It's listed there. You can find me at www.jerrywiserelationships.com. You can send me a message and I'll reach out to you. I do get a lot of requests from people, so I hope you'll be patient, but keep trying to contact me. I will contact you. There have been few, if any, I've ever not contacted back. And that's only because they sent me information, sent me their name and a question, and never put an email on or a phone number. No way I could get back to them. So please be sure to put a way for me to contact you. I hope today has been a help in talking about preparing for no contact. It's not an easy topic, not an easy subject. I hope we can begin to learn how to drive fly the 747 rather than the Cessna, and maybe we'll be more successful in in going no contact. Again, I thank you for joining me today, and have a great day.